She called the police and said I was stealing water from my own land. I didn't even argue. I just stood there, one hand on the old windmill switch, listening to the officer repeat her complaint. Karen stood behind him with her arms crossed, that same look on her face, like she already won. "He installed an unauthorized structure," she said loudly. "And now he's disrupting the community water flow." I almost smiled. Disrupting. That word was doing a lot of work for her. The officer looked at me. "Sir, do you want to explain?" I pointed behind me. The windmill turned slowly in the afternoon breeze, old metal blades creaking, pulling water up from the ground. "That thing's been here longer than this HOA," I said. Karen stepped forward quickly. "That's not true. It violates Code 14B, no external mechanical structures allowed." I looked at her. "Funny," I said, "because nobody complained when it was working for you." She froze, just for a second. Then she forced a laugh. "Working for me? I don't need anything from your property." That's when the officer frowned slightly. "For you?" he asked. Karen ignored him. "He needs to remove it immediately. It's an eyesore and a hazard." I walked over to the base of the windmill and tapped the metal pipe running into the ground. "You sure you want that?" Her smile came back. "Absolutely." I nodded once. "Okay." The officer looked between us. "Sir, if it violates HOA rules, you may need to—" "It's not about rules," I said quietly. "It's about water." Karen snapped, "Stop trying to confuse the issue." But it was already too late, because right at that moment, a sprinkler across the street sputtered, then stopped. We all turned. Another one, dead. Then another. One of the neighbors stepped out of his house looking at his dry lawn. "Hey, my water just cut out." Karen blinked. "That's not related." I didn't say anything. I just reached down and slowly turned the windmill valve halfway closed. The creaking sound changed. Lower, heavier. Across the street, someone shouted again. "My kitchen tap's not working." The officer looked back at Karen. "Ma'am, is the neighborhood on a shared water system?" Karen opened her mouth, then stopped. That silence hit harder than anything. I leaned slightly closer to her. "Still want it removed?" I asked. She tried to recover fast. "This is a coincidence." I shook my head. "No," I said. "This is design." The officer stepped forward now, more serious. "Sir, are you supplying water to nearby homes?" I met his eyes. "Not by choice," I said. Karen snapped, "He's lying!" But a man from the cul-de-sac came running up, holding his phone. "Our pressure dropped to 0. What's going on?" I pointed at the windmill. "That system pulls groundwater, feeds a backup line, installed before city lines reach this block." The officer looked surprised. "And that line connects to—" I pointed down the street. "Every house she represents." Karen's face went pale. "That's not possible." I smiled a little. "You've been using it for 3 years." She shook her head. "No, we have city water." "Yeah," I said, "when it works." Another neighbor shouted from a distance, "Nothing's coming out of the taps." Now people were coming outside, confused, frustrated. Karen turned slowly in a circle, realizing what was happening. I watched her carefully, because this was the moment, the one where power shifts. "You filed complaints about my windmill," I said quietly, "sent warnings, tried to find me." She didn't respond. "So today," I paused, letting the silence stretch. "I figured I'd see what happens if I follow your order." I reached down again and turned the valve a little more. The windmill slowed. Across the street, someone yelled, "It's completely out!" Karen stepped toward me fast. "Turn it back on!" I looked at her. "Why?" I asked. You're affecting the whole neighborhood. I held her gaze. You said it wasn't connected. The officer raised his hand. All right, hold on. But Karen cut him off. Turn it back on now. For the first time, she wasn't in control. I leaned closer, just enough so only she could hear me. You should have checked where your water comes from, I said. She whispered. You can't do this. I straightened up. Watch me. Then I looked at the officer. You asked if I want to explain, I said. He nodded slowly. I gestured toward the windmill, the dry houses, the confused neighbors. This isn't just a windmill, I said. It's the reason this entire cul-de-sac has water when the main line fails. Karen stumbled back a step, because now everyone was starting to understand. And the worst part? This wasn't even the real problem. I looked down at the valve, then back at her. Because what Karen didn't know yet was that this system didn't just supply water, it controlled it. Karen grabbed my arm. Stop this right now! I pulled my arm back slowly. Careful, I said. You already called the police on me once.
The officer stepped between us. Everyone take a step back.
But people were already gathering in the street. Doors opening, voices rising, phones out. My kids can't even flush the toilet, someone shouted. Another yelled, we pay HOA fees for this? Karen tried to take control again. Everyone calm down. This is temporary. I tilted my head. Yeah, just like your order to remove my windmill. That hit. The crowd shifted. Eyes moved from her to me, then back again.
The officer looked at Karen. Ma'am, did you order him to shut down a system that supplies water?
I didn't know it supplied anything, she snapped. That's the problem, I said quietly. She pointed at me. Turn it back on or I'll have you arrested for disrupting utilities. I let out a small breath. You already tried that, I said. Didn't go well. Then I reached into my pocket and pulled out a folded paper.
The officer noticed. What's that?
I handed it to him. He opened it, scanned it, then looked up again, slower this time.
This is a property easement, he said.
I nodded. Filed 20 years ago, I added, before any of these homes were built. Karen stepped closer. What does that mean?
The officer turned the paper toward her. It means the water system sits on his land, and he controls access.
Her face went blank. No, the HOA manages all utilities. Not this one, I said. Murmurs spread through the crowd. One man stepped forward. Wait, are you saying he can shut off our water? I didn't answer right away. Then I said, I never have. Karen's voice dropped. But you just did. I looked at her. You told me to remove it. Silence again. The officer folded the paper carefully.
Sir, legally, you're within your rights, he said, but this is affecting multiple homes.
I know, I replied. Karen stepped closer, trying one last time to act in charge. You're going to turn it back on, she said, forcing confidence. I shook my head slowly. Not like this. Her eyes narrowed. What do you want? I looked around at the neighbors, families, people who had no idea where their water even came from, then back at her. I want the truth, I said. She frowned. What? I pointed toward the houses. You've been taking credit for services you don't control. Sending fines, making rules, acting like you own everything. That's my job. No, I said. Your job is to manage, not lie. The officer watched quietly now. Karen crossed her arms again, but this time it didn't look strong. It looked shaky. Say it, I said. She hesitated. Say what? I stepped closer. Tell them where their water actually comes from. The whole street went quiet. Even the windmill slowed to a soft creak behind me. Karen looked around. At all the faces waiting. Her control was slipping, fast. Finally, she spoke. Low at first. It's a backup system, she muttered. Louder. someone from the crowd said. She swallowed. The water comes from his land, she admitted. A ripple went through the neighbors. Confusion, then realization.
And the HOA? The officer asked.
Karen looked down. We don't control it. That was it. That was the moment everything flipped. I walked back to the windmill. The metal groaned softly as I placed my hand on the valve. Then I looked over my shoulder. One more thing, I said. Karen barely looked up. This system doesn't just supply water. I slowly turned the valve back open. It records it. The windmill picked up speed. Across the street, a faucet burst back to life. People shouted in relief. Water returned, but Karen wasn't looking at them. She was staring at me. Records? What? She asked. I gave a small smile. Usage, I said. Flow direction, pressure changes.
The officer's eyes narrowed slightly. And reroutes, I added.
Karen's face went pale again. Because now she realized this wasn't just about turning water off. This system knew exactly where water was going, and where it shouldn't be going. I stepped closer one last time. You might want to check your clubhouse, I said quietly. She frowned. Why? I looked her straight in the eyes. Because that's where the biggest leak is.
Karen didn't wait. She turned and rushed toward the clubhouse, heels slipping on the pavement. A few board members followed her, whispering, panicking. The officer looked at me. What kind of leak are we talking about? I picked up my phone and opened the system app. Not a small one, I said. We walked up the street together. Neighbors trailed behind us, curious now, some still holding their phones, recording everything. As we got closer, I could already hear it. Water, not flowing, pouring. Karen reached the clubhouse door first and shoved it open. What is that sound? We stepped inside. The main hall floor was wet, not flooded yet, but close. Water was seeping from under a locked utility room door at the back. Karen froze. No, this can't be. I walked past her calmly. You said the HOA controls everything, I said. Let's see. The officer knocked once, then forced the door open. The moment it cracked, water rushed out, fast, cold, pressurized, nonstop. It spread across the floor, soaking carpets, chairs, everything in seconds. Someone screamed. Another person jumped back. Karen just stood there, staring. Inside the room, pipes lined the walls. One of them had a clear, illegal tap connection, fresh, recently installed. The officer stepped in carefully, checking it. Who installed this? No answer. I leaned against the doorframe. That's not part of the original system, I said. Karen shook her head. We just added a small line for landscaping. Landscaping? I cut in. I walked over and pointed at the thick pipe. That line is pulling way more than landscaping needs. The officer looked closer, then back at her. This is an unauthorized diversion, Karen's voice cracked. It was temporary. I nodded slowly. Yeah, and you didn't think anyone would notice because it was coming from my system. Silence. Water kept pouring. The officer pulled out his radio. We need county utilities and code enforcement here now. Karen stepped toward me, her voice low and desperate. You set this up? I shook my head. No, I said, you did. She pointed at the pipe. You rerouted pressure. I looked straight at her. I restored it. That hit harder, because she knew what it meant. When I reopened the valve fully, the system went back to its original balance. And that illegal connection? It couldn't handle the real pressure, so it exposed itself. The officer turned back to Karen. Ma'am, this is serious, she whispered. I didn't know. You signed off on modifications? She hesitated again. Yes. That was enough. He nodded once. Then you're responsible. Outside, more county vehicles pulled in. Inspectors, utility workers, cameras. Word was spreading fast now. Neighbors stood outside watching as hoses were brought in, water shutoffs prepared. Karen walked out slowly, like everything around her was collapsing. One of the board members tried to speak. What do we do? She didn't answer, because there was nothing left to control. I stepped outside, watching the scene unfold. Jake came up beside me. Man, she was stealing water from you? I shrugged slightly. Not just me. He looked confused. I pointed at the system map still open on my phone. That line was pulling extra pressure from emergency reserves. His eyes widened. Wait, so if something happened? Yeah, I said quietly. Fire, main break, anything. I looked back at the clubhouse. They would have had nothing. Jake shook his head. That's messed up, I nodded. It gets worse. Because the system didn't just show illegal use, it stored history. I zoomed in and showed him dates, times, flow spikes. Months of it. Jake let out a low whistle. She's done. I locked my phone and looked toward the officers now speaking with Karen. Yeah, I said. She just doesn't know it yet. Karen's voice was shaking now. This is a misunderstanding. We were just improving the system. The inspector didn't even look convinced. Improving? He repeated. You tapped into a private water source without permission and redirected emergency reserves. Another officer stepped in with a tablet. We pulled preliminary data. He turned the screen toward the inspector. Unauthorized usage, consistent over the last 8 months. Karen's face dropped. 8 months? I didn't say anything. I just watched. Because now it wasn't about me anymore. It was about what she had been doing behind everyone's back. The inspector looked at her. Did you inform residents their backup water was being rerouted? No, she whispered. Did you have legal access rights to this system? That was it. The inspector closed the tablet. Ma'am, you're going to need to come with us. The crowd outside went completely silent. Karen looked around, hoping someone would defend her. No one did. Not the board members, not the neighbors. Because now they all knew the truth. She wasn't protecting the community. She was using it. As they escorted her toward the vehicle, she turned back toward me one last time. You did this? I met her eyes calmly. No, I said. You did when you thought no one would ever check. She had no answer, and just like that, she was gone. Over the next few weeks, everything changed. The county shut down the illegal connection completely. They ran a full inspection of the HOA systems. Heavy fines were issued. The HOA had to publicly notify every resident about what happened. No more hidden control. No more fake authority. And Karen? She was officially removed, then charged for illegal utility diversion and fraud. The board replaced her within days. This time with someone who actually listened. As for me, they tried to thank me. Some even apologized. I just nodded because I never wanted control. I just wanted peace on my land. A few weeks later, I stood outside again, watching the windmill spin slowly in the evening breeze. The sound was calm, steady, honest. Jake walked up beside me with a grin. Neighborhood's calling you the water boss now. I laughed. Yeah, that's not happening. He pointed at the windmill. You could have shut everything down, forced them to do whatever you wanted. I looked at the houses down the street. Lights on, families inside, normal again. I'm not her, I said. He nodded. We stood there quietly for a moment, wind turning, water flowing. Everything back where it should be. Then Jake smirked and said, Still crazy though? Whole neighborhood running on your system. I gave a small smile. Not mine, I said. It was always there. I looked at the windmill one last time, then back at the street. People just forgot where their water came from. And as the sun dipped lower, there was only one thing left that people kept repeating after everything that happened. Don't mess with the one thing keeping you running. Especially when you don't even understand how it works.